Viewers, welcome to a special broadcast on Times Now. The mystery surrounding the death of Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose has been a topic of intrigue for decades altogether. There's a new book now. This is the book in my hand, The Bose Deception. I have the authors Anuj Dhar Chandrachur Bose. Anuj Dhar ji, Chandrachur Bose ji, thank you for speaking to Times Now. I want to first take this opportunity to congratulate both of you on
Thank you very
this
much.
stellar work that you've done. Both of you are identified with some seminal work as far as Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose, his life contributions is concerned. My first question is, why did you feel the need for another book on Netaji Bose?
Well, Pranesh, let me briefly answer this question, then Anuj can probably take over. We have been working on this since the last 20 years, and we have produced a number of books which you referred to. Now, in 2019, we wrote a book called Conundrum, Subhash Bose's Life After Death, where we answered specifically the question that if the plane crash did not happen, what happened to him? But there was so much hue and cry. A movie was made on that book, which won the National Award. And there was so much hue and cry. And suddenly we found a section of the Bose family bringing up, resurrecting the plane crash issue and claiming, going to town through the media that the declassified files, which were declassified because of our campaign from 2006-7, so more than 1,300 files which were declassified. Apparently, they prove beyond doubt that Netaji died in the plane crash. Now, we could see, we who have read every page of these files, practically every word of these files, it was clear to us that the reality is quite different. These files clearly demonstrate how this thing has been suppressed for the last 80 years by every successive government. Some of the non-Congress governments, starting with Morarji Desai, have raised doubts and overturned the previous governments and the previous inquiries, decisions, conclusions. But somehow they again brought it up and tried to create a confusion. So it was quite apparent to us that we have to completely demolish this plane crash theory once and for all for the case to progress to the next level. And that's where we started.
Mr. Dhar, why have you called it the Bose Deception?
Well, this is a deception, and what else we could call it? Because, when we saw these files, and we're talking about, as Chandrachur said, these files are far too many. Just to give an idea, about 900 files were released by the Ministry of Defense in 1997. Like, they were just put in the National Archives. I think hardly anybody bothered to go and check them. Then about 1,000 plus files were released when Manmohan Singh ji was the Prime Minister, and this is because of our efforts. We, Chandrachur and myself both, we went after the government using the RTI, and we compelled them to release about 1,000 plus files. Then about 304 or 5 files were released by Prime Minister Modi. And this was a result of the, the efforts put up by us and, of course, the members of Bose family. We were working together back then. And then, of course, there are files, so this is the Subhash Bose is so different, and the issue of his death as well, is that this man has left so much of, trail all over the world that you have files about him in different countries. So there are, of course, records relevant to the death case in America. There are papers in Taiwan which we have accessed, and for the first time, somebody has accessed these papers, which we have quoted in our book. And of course, there are files in the UK and elsewhere. So we brought all of them together, and the conventional view has been, as was announced by the Japanese government in 1945, that there was a plane crash in present-day Taiwan, and Subhash Bose died there. Now, the government view was shaped in October 1946 when Panditji, who was then heading the interim government, and he made a statement that the story is gospel truth or whatever it is. And since then, that has become the stand of the government of India. So we have also highlighted that Patel was not on the same page. In fact, he disagreed with this stand, but at the same time, eventually all came around and this became the government stand. But there were people who were not willing to accept the plane crash theory. So they were the counter view which emerged over a period of time that Netaji actually and his Japanese friends planted a fake news, and it was sort of a deception. And Netaji actually escaped towards Soviet Russia. But each time there was a demand for an inquiry, the government of India would not budge. They would refuse. Panditji himself publicly and in Parliament, he said there's no need for an inquiry. But as it happened, two times, 3, 4 times, that the government came under pressure, and there was no option left. They had to set up inquiry. So they, for example, they asked an ex-INA man, ex Subhash Bose aide,
Right.
SCA year, who then became, a Nehru supporter. He was asked to do an inquiry in 1951, and then afterwards, when they were again, there was a pressure by people, and the government faced a sort of a dilemma that there was a civil society wanted to set up its own inquiry. So the government quickly set up its own committee, the first committee, which was headed by Shah Nawaz Khan. Now, when you read the government files, and we are amazed to see, I mean, I cannot imagine how can people who are as, senior as home secretaries and foreign secretaries, when they are writing those cabinet notes, they are totally derived of the common sense. Now, for example, somebody like Shah Nawaz Khan, who was in INA for about a year or so, but spent all his rest of his life in Congress party, he's called as Netaji's man. He was not Netaji's man. He was in INA only for about 1 year. For the rest of his life, he was part of the Congress party. So they set up this committee, headed by a Congress party supporter, a Congress party man who was made a minister after his report came out, and they approved the plain story. But people, again, they refused to, and there was throughout, despite government's best attempt, people of this country were for one reason or the other, they were not willing to accept the pain story. And then the government was again compelled, as we have demonstrated in 60s. There was another, again, the demand rose, and members of parliament, 350 MPs from parliament, all parties wanted an inquiry, but government again would not allow it. But somehow they set up another commission into Mahatma Gandhi's the murder case, and then government was forced to follow the suit in this case also. So likewise, we have shown that throughout, if you go, starting from 1940s, the government of India had made up its mind they should be knowing the diet, there should be no inquiry, but each time they came under pressure and they set up a committee and commissions. Now, all of these commission committee were basically led by people who are part of the system. Like Shah Nawaz Khan was a Congress party MP and he became minister. Then came, in 70s, a person called G.D. Khosta, very famous judge, but G.D. Khosta was Panditji's personal friend and Indira Gandhi's biographer. For the first time, we had a proper inquiry, which was done in 1999 onwards, done by Justice Manoj Kumar Mukherjee, who was a Supreme Court judge, and this inquiry happened because of the High Court order. Now, this was the only and proper inquiry which looked into the case, and they came to the conclusion that the whole story of Subhash Chandra Bose's death was a deception. He did not die. The whole story was planted, and Netaji escaped towards Soviet Russia. Now, the report of Justice Mukherjee Commission in 2006 was rejected by Government of India. Now, when we look into the all declassified files, but we come to the conclusion that the single most important sets of records which are most crucial for this case are the papers which were used, or the cabinet notes from 2006, on the basis of which then Government of India decided to reject Mukherjee Commission's report. So our conclusion is that rejection in 2006 by then Congress government was motivated by politics. It is not based on facts. And our recommendation in this book is that Modi government should accept Justice Mukherjee's report, because that is fact and pure fact.
In fact, you were talking about the period of 2000. Given the focus on events in the 2000s, how do you believe the revelations in your book impact contemporary Indian politics and the public perception of, someone like, someone of the stature of Netaji Bose? And before you answer that, I'm reading the first para of the first chapter, Skeletons Out of the Cupboard. On the dull evening of 12th April 2006, a tempo traveler sputtered as it climbed Raisina Hill in New Delhi. So you begin with this tempo anecdote. What is this that you're trying to say?
No, this is actually fact. This is nothing whether we have everything and anything and everything in the book is real. I mean, you can just write it in that way. But essentially, we are opening the book, in 2006, when the reports of Mukherjee Commission were printed secretly, and the whole operation was top secret, and they were brought secretly to the North Block, and they were put in a secret record room. And the interesting thing about the secret record room, when you put something inside secret record room, you are not given any receipt. So there's no proof that you have kept something in a secret record room. So there was all kind of secrecy at the highest level was observed by Government of India when Justice Mukherjee Commission's report came out. But the the findings of the report was leaked to media. So this we have tried to show that, and it happened earlier also when Panditji's time and Indira Gandhi's time. See, the government on one hand, of course there are protocols in place that the report of a commission of inquiry cannot be made public until it is made public in parliament. Right. but the government has been leaking information here. So it's a game of like, it's a charade, it's a deception. So deception is not only from our side, that Netaji, had this whole smoke screen of, fake death story.
But that was
But even the
strategic.
government-
What
but even
explains
government-
this deception? Mr. Ghosh, is there, I just want to simplify this conversation for for the viewers. Are both of you trying to say that even today there is, a sense of hesitation, for lack of a better word, when you approach the topic of Netaji Bose, whether it is the government circles or, the powers that be or people associated with him?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, for one thing, we have to remember, the first thing that we have to remember when we are talking about Netaji today is about the political narrative that was created about our independence, that we have achieved our independence by means of non-violence Gandhian movement, which is far from actual truth, which the later declassified documents from the British government themselves prove that, a large role was played by Netaji and his INA, and that itself hastened the exit of the British Raj. Now, if the government has carefully built a Gandhian narrative for so many decades, and if you give Netaji a central place now, that will cause a massive change in the entire Gandhian make-believe narrative, the bubble that we have created. And that will have numerous political repercussions, not only in the domestic scenario, but also internationally. If you might remember that when Prime Minister Modi erected the statue of Netaji at Kartavya Path, the kind of objections that came from international media associating Netaji with Hitler and the Nazi regime, completely overlooking the realities of that era and his actual political ideology, what he did for the country and what he wanted to do for the country post-independence. So all these were brushed aside, and he was just shown as a Nazi puppet. So that kind of distortion is still happening right at this moment. I mean, it happened just a few years ago, and it's going on. So the most fundamental impact will be on the political narrative that has been created. Secondly, all those leaders who have sponsored this narrative and have flourished, not only political leaders, but also bureaucrats and
Right.
officials, other officials, who have thrived because of this non-violent Gandhian narrative, that Gandhi means India and Gandhian narrative means Indian philosophy. So they will be impacted. They will come into the dragnet. So, I mean, the chain goes on. There will be such a huge chain reaction.
No, I understand. You're talking about a larger ecosystem that goes, much beyond mainstream political leaders.
Absolutely.
People,
Yes.
I don't know what they were motivated by, but who worked together to, you've said in the book, to build this deception that continues
Yes.
to be an enigma even today,
Yes.
which is why,
Yes.
you've had a need for another book. Now, Anuj Dhar, I want to ask you this. In this book, you've made a survey of all available declassified records from different countries and concluded that the plane crash story was planted to enable Netaji's escape to Russia. How do you believe this secrecy surrounding Netaji's death influenced our post-independence political landscape, so to say?
Well, let me give an example. I mean, I would rather give you an example, and the example to will speak for themselves rather than my saying so. So this we have discussed, for example, a meeting which took place between Gandhiji and Louis Fisher, his biographer. Louis Fisher was that famous American
Right.
Pulitzer Award-winning journalist, and on whose book the movie Gandhi, Atom Bros Gandhi, which was funded by our government, was made. Now, Fisher met Gandhiji in 20th July 1946, which is almost a year after Subhash Bose's reported death. Whatever happened, what conversion, of course, nobody knows. So only in the 1990s, when Fisher's personal papers were sent to the Princeton University in America and they were discovered, it's only then that we know what actually happened. Because we find in those letters, in the correspondence that, in the papers of Mr. Fisher, there was a letter sent on Gandhiji's behalf after that meeting on July 1946, A letter was sent on behalf of Netaji, on behalf of Gandhiji to Fisher, and he was told that according to Gandhiji, he is fully aware of the temperament of the Indian army is no longer what it used to be in the First World War. In Second World War, they are of course pro-revolution and they are pro-Russia, and then comes a very significant, very crucial, the factoid that if Subhash comes back from Russia, there's nothing Gandhiji can do to reason with the country.
I have that
So
except right
you can
here.
understand
In fact,
you understand the seriousness of what I've just said. It's on record.
right.
Mahatma Gandhi telling an American journalist, I mean, this journalist had links with the American government, that Subhash, if he comes back from Russia, there'll be nothing I'll be able to do it.
This was
So
written
it goes
by
that deep. It goes
Khurshid
that
bin
up.
Nauroji. It says, at heart, the Indian army is sympathetic to the Indian National Army. If Bose comes with help of Russia, neither Gandhiji nor the Congress will be able to reason with the country, unquote. Now, what does this reflect, according to you?
It reflects they were afraid. I mean, when you see other records, for example, we have also cited the what British military intelligence told the Americans about it, and they said the same thing, that if Subhash Chandra Bose comes back to this country, we will not be able to, things will be out of control. So it seems that the people on both sides had a singular aim that this man should not come back. That's what it says.
The most important thing which it reflects is actually that the knowledge that Bose was alive. So whenever our political leaders talk about Antaratma speaking, so this happened after Gandhiji publicly proclaimed that Bose was dead. He believed that Bose was dead. But inside somebody else was, he was writing to the Americans this kind of letter. So whenever we see our politicians talking about their Antaratma telling something to them, which basically means they have very strong intelligence inputs, which they cannot talk about publicly, but somehow it comes out. So this completely, proves that they knew for a fact that Bose was alive and he was in Russia.
And then we have many more documents. I mean, another thing. I mean, we have been, of course, I've been in journalism, of course. We have had many cases. You talk about this scandal, that, and believe me, if this thing unfolds, you are going to have so many foreign secretaries and home secretaries and the prime ministers and the IB chiefs who are going to be held accountable. So this is not about one person. This is not a small scandal where you can pinpoint and say, okay, look, this minister or that MP has taken some money from here and there. Here, if you tell the truth, successive governments and all those people who have signed those records, we have given specific examples, one after another. As I said, the book is not about what happened in 1940s. It's mostly about what happened in 2000s. It's about, for example, what happened, Renkoji Temple, what's happening, what was the role played by, the likes of Mr. Gokhale, who became our foreign secretary afterwards. What was the role played by the likes of Mr. Narayanan, who became our, president later on. So the book is not about what happened in past. Of course, we have discussed we have discussed Gandhi, but Gandhiji's era, got over in 40s. So this issue, just went on and on and on. So we are discussing those aspects of 70s and 80s and the role of the intelligence and how the government of India in 2000s handled. And the crux is very clear. From day one, there has been an attempt of, deception and cover up. And we have established and we have taken the whole thing out and we have shown that the government of India covered up. And at least as far as we are concerned, they have failed because the facts are speaking for themselves.
Now, you've said that the Congress leaders Shivraj Patil, Pranab Mukherjee and others buried the truth about Netaji's fate in 2006. Declassified files show that Bose never died the way they said he did. Now, based on your research, this investigative work, what evidence do you think most strongly support this theory of Netaji's survival? Or belies the theory of his death?
The most important document actually is of 2006 vintage. That what happens is after Justice Mukherjee submits his report, the then Home Minister Shivraj Patil calls for a meeting with his bureaucrats, senior bureaucrats and junior bureaucrats, mid-level bureaucrats. And in that meeting, it is decided that the commission's report will be rejected. What line the government will take is decided in that meeting. And accordingly, a junior bureaucrat is asked to prepare a detailed note, which he does. And the mid-level and senior bureaucrats are very pleased with that note. Now, we have completely, thoroughly analyzed that note, which is in a chapter called Bury the Dead. Paragraph by paragraph, point by point, we have taken apart that cabinet note, which was later on transformed into a note for the cabinet. We have shown that this entire note is full of misinformation, misleading statements, and distortion of facts. So, in essence, the entire cabinet was misled about all the facts regarding the plane crash issue. That's a serious issue. And that's probably is the reason the government must have been aware of that, because none of these points were taken out in the parliamentary reply by the Home Minister. The government's first response was a one-line rejection of the report without giving any reason, which created a ruckus in the parliament in Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha. The government was compelled to hold a debate, but that debate was never allowed to conclude. So the
Right.
debate which started on the Mukherjee Commission report in 2006 was never allowed to conclude. The issue is still open. And why we particularly wrote this book, one of the main reasons is that when the Modi government was asked about its stand on the plane crash issue, it said first that they are holding on to the UPA, the Congress government stand, but later on issued a clarification that if new information comes about, they are willing to reconsider that and reopen the case. So here in this book, we have given all the facts, all that matters, and handed it over. So it's for the government to act now at this moment.
I'm
No.
speaking in terms of evidence. I mean, since you asked that question, and see what happened when the news of Subhash Bose's death came at the end of Second World War. The British, of course, did not believe, and they had a proper inquiry done. It was led by a IB deputy director, and there were many military officers. And then these people then eventually, they became part of a larger unit called Combined Section, and they were having inputs coming from different sides, including Americans and other sources. And they came to a sort of conclusion that, of course, it was very evident that the entire story of the death of Subhash Bose was based on, eyewitness claims. So there was no forensic, like dead bodies not available, dead bodies pictures not available. The records of Subhash last moments had been destroyed by Japanese. So there was nothing to prove, by way of records and the forensic side. So the only the evidence as it was the claims made by different people, and Japanese and one Indian who was Subhash Bose's ADC, Habibur Rahman. And they sort of concluded in 46 that there's a lot of contradictions in what these people are saying. To prove, what they're saying, we will have to go to Taiwan, Taipei, where the plane crash supposedly took place. And we need to go and check the hospital records, because Subhash was taken to hospital, he was cremated. So these records must be there. So this was the line taken by the British. And this is the common thread running throughout. We have demonstrated that right from 1946, government of India was also aware that we have to have an inquiry in Taiwan.
Right.
We have to have, checked records in Taiwan. And interestingly, by 1950s, the government of India was fully aware that the records in Taiwan do not support the plane crash. In fact, they show something else. And from that time onwards, there was a cover-up. And the government made a sort of strategy that not to allow any committee or commission to visit Taiwan. In fact, they did not allow Shah Nawaz Khan to go there. All kind of excuses were given, especially by Mr. Nehru, and the Taiwanese will not cooperate. No, they're very cooperative. In fact, we had a secret inquiry done by the British. They were fully cooperative. And thereafter, it was only Mukherjee Commission's time, when I'm talking about in our time, my time in 2003 or 2001 or 2, the government was not letting Justice Mukherjee visit Taiwan. I played a part.
Yeah, so it was lack of intent. Lack of
intent, it's a cover-up. No, it's not lack of intent. They want to cover it up. There's no intention, is that they want to cover it up. So I'll be very frank with you.
So it was deliberate, which is why you called it deception.
Deliberately, they have misled the country, and it was only when Justice Mukherjee went to Taiwan on his own, and he was able to access records from Taiwanese government. In fact, till the very last, government of India was telling lies. There are no records, relevant records in Taiwan. And Justice Mukherjee did discover those records, and he established that the Subhash Bose never died and never committed in Taiwan. So this whole thing is, open and shut. I keep saying, had it not been Netaji, had it been some case of some thug and some terrorist or some other person, it would have been taken up like anything by the courts of law. And our misfortune that people are not willing to stand up for Subhash Chandra Bose. They are willing to stand up for non-entities and people who have come into news for whatever reason. But this is such an important case, going through so many governments. And it is a blatant cover-up. I mean, there's no other word for it. It's a blatant cover-up. I mean, I give you one small example, and let me throw open challenge to the government of India on this issue. In the note to the cabinet in 2006, they have made a tall claim that the Americans and British intelligence inquiries prove that Netaji died in that plane crash. I'm challenging them through you. Please furnish which American and British intelligence reports prove that Netaji died in the plane crash. We will produce our own reports, including from the CIA, declassified files. The Americans are very clear. No, there was never any direct evidence of Subhash Chandra Bose's death. They were the first one to reach Taiwan and do the inquiry. The British were not clear. They are telling a downright lies in the cabinet notes because these cabinet notes were not meant for public. I mean, you're spreading lies within the government and convincing each other, no, he died. I'm sorry, it doesn't work like that. So if the claim made by government of India is that according to the American and British intelligence reports, Subhash Chandra Bose died in a plane crash, please punish those reports because we.
No, so Anuj Dhar, are you saying this was no 1 minute? No, 1 minute. Are you saying now, because you are not mincing your words, you are not being charitable to those who are behind the cover up as you claim. Now, are you saying that this cover up began with the aim of first propagating a theory, then pushing that narrative, and continues till date because of the number and nature of people involved? Is that the reason, or is there something else to this?
The cover-up began with, like Chandrachur said, the story of Netaji's death in a plane crash was floated by Subhash Bose and Japanese themselves because he had no other way to go. He had to survive and to continue fighting for this country. So it was covered up at that point of time for some different reason. Today, reasons are different. But it so happened the story came out. And
what are the reasons? What do you think are the reasons?
As Chandru said, the reasons are different for different times. Initially, to say once you have taken a public stand that he has died, then something else comes out, then you will be shown in bad light. And then when you tell the truth, it will have implication. For example, it will hit the Gandhi brand like anything.
Right.
You will have problem with the British government. You will have issue with the Japanese government. You will have issue with the Russian government because
brand Gandhi
of India, despite so many attempts, we met Modi ji and he said, I'm going to talk to Mr. Putin about it. There's no word about it till date. Prime Minister himself said that I'm going to talk to Mr. Putin, and there's no word about it. So Government of India, we have demonstrated in this book, was never serious. We never asked Russians. Russians themselves were saying that Subhash was in Russia. Your government has to approach us at the highest level. So we have given all that data. I mean it's coming from through the top level people.
Right.
So this book is not based on some here and there sources. I mean,
no, I understand that. I've gone through the book in parts.
Let me give you a small example.
Yes.
For us to say, for example, tomorrow, somebody might say, Anuj Dhar is saying, or Chandrachur Bose saying, that Netaji's daughter's, Anita's, view on Subhash Bose's death is like wishy-washy. But in the book, we have produced, government record signed by Mr. Jai Shankar, and in which he's saying the same thing. So we are like this. We are not, I being a former journalist, I'm very much aware of, whose name to take, whose name not to take. But these are not, anonymous sources. So these are people, we have named people. And these are top level people who many of them are still
alive. You're claiming you have documents to back the
all declassified by Modi
all declassified documents. So let me then ask you this. Now this book outlines how New Delhi obstructed the truth from the Nehru era, through the Manmohan Singh era, naming specific officials involved. There are multiple officials that you've named. The book also proposes an action plan for the the current dispensation, the Modi government, to follow. Could you quickly elaborate on this call to action and the steps that the government can take so that our viewers understand, roughly it is like this, that look, the mystery is there, people have many unanswered questions, but what should be done?
Yeah, the basic thing is the government needs to form a committee. I mean, it sounds very tiring, another committee, another commission. But this can be dealt with only by a multidisciplinary group involving the top politicians, bureaucrats, retired officials, and giving certain latitude to IB, particularly the intelligence officials who have served in that era and who have direct knowledge of this issue, giving them the permission to speak the truth without towing the government line. Now, this can be done as a first step. Second step is release all intelligence files. And when I say intelligence files, it does not only concern the Intelligence Bureau, it concerns the RNAW, it concerns the military intelligence, it concerns the state special branches, CIDs. They hold files which throw a lot of light, which we have shown in other books. It does not directly concern this topic, plane crash, but the later phase as to if Netaji did not die in the plane crash, what happened to him. So there is a whole lot of information which is still suppressed till today. Now, the main problem the government, as we understand this for this government, is if this issue is opened up, it will, the backlash that will happen, that will result, there is no political incentive. It will not result like the Kashmir or the Ram Temple, Ram Mandir issue. There are political incentives. There is a vote bank. There are people associated. It's a live issue where action translates into electoral benefits. Unfortunately for us, this particular issue has not become an electoral issue, despite several efforts. So, but this concerns a man who got our freedom expedited, who because of whom the British Raj hastened their exit. So we owe it to him, to the posterity, to tell the truth. Whatever the political cost, whatever the social cost, people need to know the truth. And this can be done in a step-by-step manner with full transparency, no cover up, nothing secretive about it. Let it be an open session for these people gathering together. Let people come forward and tell their stories, and whatever documents are available, let them put together. And it will be separating the grain from the chaff will be not a difficult job.
The recommendation in the book are very, very clear, that we had a commission of inquiry set up on the Calcutta High Court's order in 1999. This is Mukherjee Commission of Inquiry. This was the first proper inquiry into this matter. Now the report came out, but for reason political, the Congress party rejected this report. And then we have now, using the declassified files, shown that this rejection was malafide. It was based on political reasoning, not facts. So our recommendation number one to Modi government is that Justice Mukherjee Commission report should be accepted. There's no reason. I mean, there's no need for any inquiry. I mean, Mukherjee Commission has done that, and we have that report, and we all accept it. This is the truth. That's what happened. So what you have to do is to accept that report. Number one. Number two, the Mukherjee Commission report says that Subhash Bose went towards Russia, but he was not able to establish whether Netaji reached there or not, because he was not given access to the classified records in Russia, and Indian government never tried very hard for it. We have shown that. So Russians were cagey about talking the KGB and then the other intelligence files, and government of India also never pressed them the way they should have. So our second recommendation to the government of India is that you should take up the issue of Netaji's fate with the Russians at the highest level, and that should be done. So I think these two steps, once you take, the whole story will unfold. But you have to be serious, because we have given example of similar case. For example, the very well-known case of Raoul Wallenberg, who disappeared in 1945, same year as Subhash Chandra Bose, and he was presumed dead. And then there was a news about his, he was in Russian hands, so on and so forth. And for 10-15 years, they kept on lying. No, he is not with us. We do not know who this man is. But the pressure piled up by the Swedish government made them accept the truth that he was with them. So we have instances in past where the governments have lied through their teeth, but once pressure has come and the other governments have they have tried over and again, the people tell the truth. So accept Justice Mukherjee's report. We don't need another inquiry report or whatever. It's the truth.
Accept the report and then proceed on the recommendations.
And talk to Russian government on this issue at the highest level. Don't ask
some junior officials to go and declassifying our own intelligence files, because unless we declassify our own intelligence files, we cannot ask another country to open up their archives, which the government tried, the commission tried, but the Russian government refused. So we cannot go to another country and say that show us your secret files while we keep our own files closed in a cupboard.
Right. And I'll give you example of the level to which they have stooped. We have given specific example using government records. The government of India, right from 1967, according to the official version, Subhash Chandra Bose, he died in a plane crash in Taiwan, and he was cremated there. And then his ashes were taken to Japan, and they're lying in Renkoji Temple in Japan. Now, the temple priest was not very pleased with the whole maintaining, and it was a problem for him. So in 1967, there was an idea given by then Ministry of External Affairs employee, K.R. Narayanan, who eventually became a Congress leader and then President of India, that we should give him some money. So since 1967, government of India has been secretly funding Renkoji Temple. That's all. This is on the files. Funnily, in 2006, this question was raised in Parliament House that is government of India paying Renkoji Temple money? And there's a deliberation, and please look, it's there in the book. We are referring to what the Foreign Secretary said and what happened and all that. They wanted to prevent that question being, asked in Parliament, for example. When it was not possible, the government, believe me, from quoting from records, they lied in Parliament, we are not paying them money. Because it's a top secret issue, we cannot tell the truth. And then there was a court case. In the court also, the government, through an affidavit, lied that they were not paying the Renkoji Temple. There are 50 files in which you get all details of how much money is being paid. So they will stoop to any angle. Somebody at the level of Pranab Mukherjee, who's a foreign minister of a country, he goes and tries to convince Netaji's wife, who never believed in this whole story of playing Kashmir. We have been hearing so much of nonsense about Netaji's family. Family, what is family? Family is Netaji's siblings. Nobody believed he died in a plane crash. Family is Netaji's nephew, nieces who knew him. Nobody, except for one person who went to Congress party, nobody believed he died. Netaji's wife never believed she died in 1996. So in 1995, a few months before she died, Emily Schenkel, Pranab Mukherjee, the foreign minister of our country, goes to her and try to brings her around that she should support government line. She would have none of it, and she just asked him to get lost. Pranab Babu comes back to Delhi and he files a top secret memorandum of what happened in Germany when he met Netaji's wife, and he doesn't refer to it. He doesn't talk about what Netaji's wife thought. I mean, you're giving a false story. I mean, so these people have gone to that level. They are putting false narrative in the books,
Okay.
in the government records. So we have, in that sense, they are equal to what KGB was doing in Russia. They were putting false narratives. So the all government records are not gospel truth. So you have probably in government records different narratives being floated here and there. So this goes too deep. So the word which you caught initially when we started the conversation, deception. Deception is a both side. The deception is Netaji also created for his escape, but the bigger deception is what government of India has successfully done.
The one deception is the strategic bit. This deception that we've talked about, what you've written in the book, is a complete disservice to the legacy of Netaji Bose. So I once again take this opportunity to congratulate both of you, Anuj Dhar Chandrachur Bose. I hope the book is well received and serves the purpose that you want. A probe inquiry once again, so that the truth comes out. Nothing else is needed. Netaji deserves this. This country deserves to know what happened to Netaji Bose. Thank you for speaking to Times Now.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you.